Stay connected with the world through WION. Like the page on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter for new alerts. Instagram for videos and images. And the website for the latest news, views, and analysis. WIONews.com. World is one.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground at Gravitas? We don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India.
Welcome to WION Live Broadcast from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani. First, let's take a look at the latest stories making headlines this hour. Head of Russia's Wagner paramilitary group accuses Moscow of downplaying the situation around the embattled Ukrainian town of Bakhmut. Kyiv claims to have recaptured territories lost to Russia earlier. Moscow says that its forces have repelled a surge of attempted Ukrainian attacks against its positions in eastern Ukraine. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, the main challenger of the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, says that his party has evidence of Russia's responsibility for the release of deep-fake online content ahead of Sunday's election.
Basically, we're grateful to our judicial system. It is the only thing that is stopping Pakistan from descending into becoming a complete banana republic.
So Supporters of former Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan are jubilant after he is granted bail by the Islamabad High Court, a day after the top court called his arrest illegal. Israel's military resumes striking targets in the Gaza Strip, which they said belong to the Islamic Jihad militant group.
Migrants wait at U.S.-Mexico border as sun sets on Title 42. Some border counties in U.S. declared disasters as the new rule kicks in. Desperate and bewildered, migrants stuck at U.S. gates. Midnight change to migrant rules. Big story on WION, World is One.
After 3 years, the United States has lifted COVID restrictions known as Title 42. The curve allows U.S. agents at the Mexico border to turn away migrants from certain countries before they made a claim for asylum. Now, new restrictions have come into force. Anyone who illegally enters the United States can be expelled, facing a lengthy ban on coming back and possible criminal charges. More details in our next report.
During the midnight hours, migrants rushed across the border to enter the U.S., leaving behind their entire livelihood, carrying their children and swimming across a river, hoping they might be released after turning themselves in to the Border Patrol. But why? To have a better quality of life, a wish to live the American dream in one of the most developed countries. Trying to dodge U.S. officials, their effort to cross the border was in vain. U.S. authorities shouted for the migrants to turn back, telling them it was too dangerous.
There are no words, if you know what I mean, because it's hard what you go through there. You go with a dream and they bring you back. They treated us badly. They handcuffed us as if we were psychopaths. They put chains on our feet, on our bellies, on our arms, if you know what I mean. So it's something that makes you feel terrible.
These are the scenes at the U.S.-Mexico border after the lifting of Title 42. Dozens of police cars are lined up in Brownsville in Texas. This area is near the entrance of International Bridge that crosses into Mexico. The security personnel are deployed to deter mass migrant arrivals. The new regulations require asylum seekers and other migrants to request entry from outside the United States. How that will play out on the ground remains unclear. For now, the Secretary of U.S. Homeland Security has said, and I quote, "Our borders are not open."
I don't think it benefits us in any way. Before we could reach over there, but now we cannot do that. They can deport us to any country. We don't know where we'll land.
Meanwhile, migrants in transit, many of whom climb onto cargo trains, were aiming to reach the border as soon as possible.
I spent over 3 months in Tapachula in order to get a humanitarian visa so I could reach the country's northern border. I got here recently. I found a lot of my co-nationals and people from all nationalities. Many people have told me they have been here for over 3 months. They have been trying to get an appointment, but they never got an appointment for the last 3 months.
Now that the Biden administration has officially ended the COVID-19 health emergency, which also means the expiration of a pandemic-era practice that began under the Trump administration. Title 42 ordered immediate expulsion of people trying to cross the border without allowing them to request asylum. With the ending of Title 42, White House officials are bracing for a surge of people to cross the southern border in the wake of these new changes. So one emergency has officially ended and another may begin. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
For more on this, we are being joined by Chris Richardson from South Carolina. Chris is an immigration expert and COO and General Counsel of BDV Solutions, which is an immigration consulting firm. Welcome to WION, Chris. Great to see you. Title 42 restrictions are replaced with new asylum rules going back to Title 8. It's meant to deter illegal crossings. Will the U.S. administration, in your opinion, be able to achieve what it intends to do at this point?
I think that they're going to achieve the ability to at least deal with the surge at the border, the immediate surge at the border. A lot of towns will be overwhelmed. They will be able to set up a policy of both carrots and sticks, both having processing centers in other countries, being able to allow people to come through alternative sources such as humanitarian parole. But ultimately, without immigration reform or some kind of comprehensive immigration reform, this is something that we're going to unfortunately be seeing have a huge impact on the United States for months to come, at least. It might taper off in maybe toward the end of the summer. But for right now, I think that we're going to see a huge surge at the border. And without some kind of comprehensive immigration reform, I think it's just going to be a problem for the United States.
And, we've seen some preparations being made along border states like Texas and Arizona, not so much New Mexico and California. But at this point, it seems across the United States, all cities are border cities. Do you think the United States is prepared for something like this?
Absolutely not. And unfortunately, we've had a lot of time to prepare. This Title 42 was a temporary provision that was first put in place by President Trump and then used by President Biden. And so there's been a lot of time to prepare for it. In that time, Congress and the White House could have worked together to come up with common sense solutions on immigration that would have lessened this desire of people to cross. But unfortunately, we've just been governed by gimmicks and band-aids as a country. And that now is bearing fruit on the entire United States. In cities as far north as New York City and Vermont and New Hampshire, they're seeing huge surges of people in their towns and communities. And unfortunately, unless we create or deal with our comprehensive immigration issue, if we don't find a way to deal and set up a comprehensive immigration platform or even like certain immigration reform policies, without that, we're going to see the surges continue across the United States.
Yeah, and here in New York, all the way from the border, we are expected to see 600 to 800 new asylum seekers a day after Title 42 has been lifted. Chris Richardson from South Carolina, thank you so much for joining us on WION, and we look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Thank you for having me.
A lot has transpired in the last couple of hours in Pakistan. Imran Khan has been granted a 2-week bail. In all cases against him, Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif is chairing another cabinet meeting, and sources say the meeting is to deliberate imposition of an emergency. The police, army, and paramilitary forces have been stationed in place, and the crisis could take another ugly turn. This anticipatory bail means that the former prime minister cannot be arrested even as he leaves Islamabad. Imran Khan will leave for his residence in Lahore, but even as jurisdiction will change, the Lahore police cannot arrest him. This seems to be in response to what the Interior Minister said earlier. Even before the court ruling, Pakistan's Interior Minister Rana Sanullah said that the former prime minister will be rearrested if he secures a bail. Right after the ruling, Imran Khan once again called the country a complete banana republic and hailed the judiciary for prevailing law and order. But the Prime Minister, Shahbaz Sharif, struck the exact opposite chord. He slammed the judiciary for favoring the ex-premier.
इस लाडले को, उसकी सारी करप्शन को आप जिस तरह प्रोटेक्ट कर रहे हैं, तो फिर पाकिस्तान के अंदर जितने भी डाकू चोर जो हैं उनको छोड़ दें, उनको निकाल दें जेलों से फिर. Let this be free for all. और गॉड फॉरबिड जो उसके नतायज है फिर हमारी नस्लें भी भुगतेंगी.
Imran's Khan arrest had given birth to 3 consecutive days of unrest. Since then, the country has witnessed deadly clashes. Unannounced curfew was imposed in the capital during Imran Khan's appearance. Islamabad was cordoned off from all sides by police and paramilitary forces. Citizens claim that they are facing a lot of difficulties in movement, but the temporary relief has been hailed by PTI supporters.
इंशाल्लाह मेरी खुशी की इंतहा है मेरी खुशी के ऐसे समझो मैं पता क्या बोल रहा हूँ मुझे ये भी नहीं पता खान साहब को जो है वो 2 हफ्ते की जमानत मिल गई है मुल्क की हालात को रखते हुए ये बड़ा बेहतरीन फैसला किया गया है ताकि मुल्क जो है वो बेहतरी की तरफ जा सके और हमारे किसी भी किस्म के एहतियात से भी वो महफूज रह सके और हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि हमारी अदालतें इसी तरह से बेहतरीन फैसले करके मुल्क की तरक्की के अंदर बेहतरीन किरदार अदा करते हैं.
The arrest was in reference to the Al Ghadir trust case. The row is over a $530 million land that was bought by a trust owner of Imran Khan and his wife. Reportedly, the trust promised to build an educational institute, but the NAB has alleged that Khan's PTI government struck a deal with a property tycoon, which cost the national exchequer a whopping $239 million. The former prime minister secured a breather today. The Islamabad High Court stayed proceedings in the Tusha Khana case. The case relates to gifts that Imran Khan received from foreign states, which he allegedly bought at a cheaper rate and sold at a hefty price. Since being outside, Imran Khan has become tangled in a slew of legal cases. He claimed there are more than 100 cases filed against him. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan and top Chinese diplomat Wang Yi met in Vienna this week for what both nations called and claimed candid talks. This meeting comes as the two powers seek to maintain communication amid soaring tensions, especially over Taiwan. The meeting intended to end an unofficial pause in communication after the shooting down of an alleged Chinese spy balloon. The balloon allegedly traveled across countries in January and February this year before being shot down in the United States. The top official met in the Austrian capital for a candid, substantial, and constructive discussion. The two held 8 hours of talks stretching over Wednesday and Thursday. The meeting further covered discussions over the Russian invasion of Ukraine and Taiwan. Earlier, Washington had repeatedly warned China against offering any military assistance to Russia. It had also asked China to closely watch its moves over Taiwan, which Beijing claims as its own territory. Taiwan is living under threat of Chinese invasion. Beijing also stepped up its military activity around the Taiwan Strait in recent months. The meeting of the top diplomat comes after Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang held talks with the U.S. ambassador to China, Nicholas Burns. The meeting in Beijing was one of the first high-level meetings since Washington shot down the Chinese spy balloon. Turkey is gearing up for their general election, one which can determine the political career of Turkish strongman Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Erdogan faces the biggest test of his 20-year reign. As the contest nears, the main challenger to Erdogan claims that his party has concrete evidence of Russian interference in the polls. Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu says that his party is equipped with the evidence which proves Russia's responsibility for the release of deep fake online content.
We find it unacceptable for another country to interfere in Turkey's domestic affairs during the phase of election or in another period. We are holding an election. It is absolutely unacceptable to interfere in our election process in favor of another political party. I wanted the whole world to be aware of this, and that is why I made this call openly by a tweet.
The Kremlin has denied such allegations while adding that such claims are false and have been spread by liars. Kılıç Daroğlu stressed that Turkey has close economic links to Russia, adding that if elected, he will pursue a fine balance with Moscow in terms of foreign policy, while aiming for another peace initiative between Russia and Ukraine. Turkey is a blazing contest for power. Candidate Muharrem İnce has withdrawn from the election race. The unexpected move is seen by Western observers as a potential boost to the main rival, Kılıç Daroğlu. He is currently leading Erdogan in most opinion polls. Meanwhile, nearly 2 million voters casted by Turks living abroad have arrived in Turkey's capital, Ankara. The ballots arrived from 73 different countries and 156 foreign offices. There are 3.4 million registered Turkish voters living outside of the country. This is more than 5% of the total electorate. These votes are still crucial, especially for the incumbent president Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Reports show that he received nearly 60% of the votes coming from abroad in 2018. The man has been in power for over 20 years, but this May's elections will be the toughest challenge he has faced so far. All right, more bad news for Peloton, the stationary bike that stole everyone's heart during the pandemic. It's a leading exercise equipment brand in the United States, and it's recalled over 2 million of its exercise cycles. This comes as defects were noted in the seats of the exercise bikes. This has even led to a historic fall in the shares of the company called Peloton, whose cycles generated a craze for at-home workouts during the COVID pandemic, as we mentioned. Now, the units recalled were sold in U.S. from January 2018 through May 2023. It was found that its bike seats can break during use, posing a risk of a fall and other injury hazards. Peloton received 35 such reports where the seat of its cycles got detached during use. In many of the cases, users faced injuries like cuts, bruises, and even fractured wrists. The company has advised all its customers in the U.S. to immediately stop using the recalled bikes. However, this corrective measure failed to save the shares from plunging. The shares of the New York-based company fell by 8.9% due to the price of the shares reached at the lowest closing since its initial public offering back in 2019. But this is not the first time that defects have been flagged over its products. It's the fourth time Peloton has disclosed a product snag in recent years. In 2021, Peloton was forced to cease sales of its high-end treadmill. This happened after a child died after being swept under the device. Peloton experienced incredible growth in sales during the height of the coronavirus pandemic. During that time, its shares rose more than 5 times. This happened due to a steep rise in demand for its bikes and treadmills as people exercise at home. The latest move to recall the bikes adds to the woes which it has been facing over the quality of its products. Well, in an exclusive interaction with WION's entertainment editor, Abira Dar, Indo-American rapper Raja Kumari opened up about her new album, The Bridge, and her experience of sharing the stage with Pakistani singer Ali Sethi at Coachella.
And here we are with Raja Kumari, and welcome to WION. We have to talk about The Bridge. Your album has released, and tell us all about it. The Bridge, why is it called The Bridge?
I mean, everything I do is for Saraswati Ma. I mean, I think all my music, I always say, is an offering on the altar of Saraswati. And I tell people, you have to give something to music to expect something back. You know, it can't just be only taking. But The Bridge for me is kind of the journey, the evolution from the artist that people know me as to the artist that I am today.
Absolutely. And we cannot not talk about your performance with John Legend that you just mentioned.
That experience, just standing there and just feeling so comfortable in that moment and just knowing that that was easy for me and that this was, this is us, it was so beautiful. And the song, we wrote together. That was an incredible experience, from meeting him to having a recording. We did it in 4 hours. We wrote his verses together. We wrote the whole thing together. We arranged it, recorded it on the spot. So John coming to India, he loved it.
And what about Coachella?
It's like endless. There's so many exciting things. Coachella. Okay. So Coachella was incredible on so many levels. One, I'm a California native. I've gone to Coachella so many times. I've dreamt I've dreamed of being on that stage. Pasuri, whenever a song from our community just transcends and becomes a global hit, when it was Why This Kolavari, and then people are on CNN are like, what is this song? It's like Pasuri was the most Googled song in the world, So much pride associated with that record. I listened to it a million times personally, and Shay Gill is so beautiful on that song. She sings it in my register. I'm like, yes, representing for the low register singing girls, And when Ali asked me to perform it with him, it was the most immediate yes I'd ever said.
Thank you so much, Raja Kumari.
So much.
Thank you.
That's all from us, live from New York City. I'm Susan Tehrani. Thank you so much for staying with us and watching. More news and headlines coming up next, only on WION World this morning.
Tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground at Gravitas? We don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.